Hi, and welcome to the HR Link, where we have people-first conversations that centre around the humans inside your business. I'm Amy from Grounded HR, and my superpower lies in my ability to zero in on the individual to bring out their unique strengths, whilst helping values-led Australian businesses lead their teams with confidence and care. Here you'll find simple, people-first HR conversations and tips to take the stress out of managing your team and put the humans at the centre of everything. So let's jump in. Welcome to today's episode. Today I want to talk about the mistakes that I see small business owners make all the time. Now, probably most of my clients who have come to me have probably made one of these mistakes that I'm going to talk about today. And I'm not here to point the finger. I'm not here to, make you feel bad. I am here to basically encourage you to ask questions. Sometimes, most of the time, small business owners don't actually even know that they've made a mistake. They thought they might have sought out the right advice, or they thought they'd sought out the right information, but that may have not have been the case. And sometimes it's that they think that they have to find the information once and then it's done. And that's not necessarily the case either. So today I want to talk about a few mistakes that I see most common in the clients who are booking calls with me. The first one of those is no proper contracts. Now, there are free templates on the web that you can access, and I encourage you to ignore them. Do not download those contracts. They do not protect your business. They don't provide protections for your employees, and they most of the time are very, very generic. And there are so many, you've put your blood, sweat, and ideas into your business, and I want you to protect that. And I also want to protect your investment on your employees. On the flip side, I also want employees to be paid correctly, and I want it to be transparent as to what their entitlements are. So, contracts, I encourage you to get them drawn up and tailored for you. Not every business can have the same employment contract. There's different inclusions and clauses that we need to put in them depending on the industry that you're in. So that's my tip. If you have not had your contracts reviewed, I encourage you to book that in and prioritize that investment. The second mistake I often see is missing policies and procedures. Now, I know I talked about in the last episode that creating structure is really important, and policies and procedures are important for creating consistency. We don't want gigantic HR manuals that no one is ever going to read. That is not the point. We want to have structures in place that make it easy for employees and for you to find the information that's correct. You're not going to have a grievance procedure every single week. So it's not going to be something that you store in your memory of how to handle that process. But it's going to be so much easier to handle that process if you have written a policy and a procedure about how that happens. So I encourage you, write one policy a month. If you can't afford the investment to get a HR consultant like myself to draft these for you, then I encourage you to prioritize putting that time in to writing those policies 1 month at a time. Take baby steps and get them done. Start with the ones that you utilize most often. These might be your leave policies. They might be your onboarding policies. It really does depend on your business, but I encourage you to get them written. The third thing I often see is the avoidance of tricky conversations. Now, I don't like these conversations either. They are not fun. I don't enjoy them, but I always go into these conversations with kindness. We need to realize that we're speaking to another human who are also probably nervous the same as we are. And having a tricky conversation is actually about how you set that conversation up, how you prepare yourself for that conversation. And it's about delivering straightforward information, but in a kind way. Also, if you know your employee really well, you're going to know probably how they're going to react to that information. So you can prepare in advance for that, whether that means sending them home early, providing them some space, or working from home, or there's so many different options of how you can show empathy. But I really do encourage you to prepare ahead of time for these tricky conversations that may turn emotional. There are good ways and bad ways to deliver these tricky conversations, and I really encourage you to do it in the most human way possible. The fourth mistake I see so often is misunderstanding leave entitlements. So all employees, no matter whether they're casual or permanent, are entitled to some kinds of leave. Under the National Employment Standards, there are minimum entitlements there for casuals and for permanent employees. Then you layer over the top of that any award entitlements. And you need to make sure that you're, keeping track of these leave entitlements as well, and that they are accruing correctly inside your payroll system. You need to ensure that people are encouraged to take leave. It's actually a really big liability if you have people who collect leave over time and then don't use it. Really encourage your employees to utilize that leave really well. They will benefit from having the time away from work to clear their mind, to spend time with family and all of those kind of things. And it's their entitlement. They are entitled to use that leave when they see fit. So I encourage you to keep an eye on your entitlements, on your leave liabilities, and also encourage your employees to book their leave ahead of time. The final mistake I see so often is inconsistent record keeping. Now, by this, I don't necessarily just mean payroll data, pay slips, timesheets, all of those things that are legislated. I also mean records of conversations you've had. It's really difficult to performance manage a person later on down the track if you haven't kept good records of conversations you've had previously with them. So if you have a conversation with an employee, either reiterate it in an email in writing so that it's very clear for the employee and yourself, or keep a diary note. I have files of diary notes, which I may never need ever again. But to cover yourself, I encourage you to keep those diary notes. So start today. If you have a conversation, if you have a difficult conversation, make sure you get it down in writing. Now, I've experienced so many of these situations with so many different clients, from really small clients right up to really big ones. And quite often they've sought advice and it's been the incorrect advice. I've had clients who were utilizing the incorrect award for their business. Therefore, that meant that their employees were classified incorrectly. They were receiving incorrect allowances. Their pay rates might not have been the same. Some of them had clauses in their contracts that were now made illegal. Things like pay secrecy and those kind of things, which you are not allowed to include in contracts anymore. So I really encourage you to have a look, ask questions, be inquisitive about the contracts, the documents, the information that you're collecting all the time. When you cover all your bases, when you do all of these, basic things well, you're going to be able to be more confident in your role. You're going to be more confident in the way that you lead your business. When you're not having to make decisions all the time and it's written on paper and it's a standard process, you're actually taking a lot of the overwhelm away from yourself. So I really do encourage you to do these things. Today, I would like to offer you our free checklist. We have created a contract checklist for you to work through to review against your contract agreements and review whether there's things that you might be missing in your employment contracts. I'll make sure that the link for that is in our show notes, and I hope that you have found today's episode super helpful. If that's the case, hopefully we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining me today on the HR Link. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you hit subscribe or follow so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. We always aim to help you lead your team with confidence and care. And if you're ready to take the next step, I encourage you to explore the HR Link. It's your HR partner in your pocket. We provide practical, people-first support to Aussie Australian businesses. You'll find the link below. But up until next time, keep leading with clarity, care, and confidence, and we'll see you then.